Okay, so someone wanted to see how to add scoring to this game. So that's pretty straightforward. Let's go to the move piece script. The reason for that is in the void on trigger stay 2D. That's where we check to see if the combination events have occurred to make the piece go into the right socket. Namely, that a collision between objects has occurred, that the name of the objects match, and that you have clicked the right button, because this gets set to yes when you click the right button. The right mouse button, that is. So all these statements get executed when those conditions are met. So this is where we want to add it. So let's add a new variable. Let's call it a public int total score. Actually, let's go ahead and make that a static int, just in case we have to transfer the information to another object. So public static int total score, and in this section, as I mentioned, is where we're going to increase that variable. So total score plus equals, let's do say 10 points for a correct placement. The reason for that is we're also going to do a penalty for an incorrect placement, but the penalty will be less. Okay, and that is in this section. So if there's a collision, because we're still in on trigger stay, and the names of the objects do not match, and the right mouse button has been clicked, this is where we make the object partly translucent. So this is where we'd have the penalty. So total score minus equals, let's say 2. So you get 10 points for correct placement, you lose 2 points for incorrect placement. Now the next component of the score is going to be a time bonus. So public, make this one a float since it's going to have decimals, and we'll call it exactly that, time bonus. Now since the time bonus is going to count down, then we want to start it at the maximum number and decrease it, and that way when the puzzle's finished, the remaining time is added to your score. Whether you do a 1-for-1 addition or you take the time remaining and multiply it by 10, pretty arbitrary, whatever you want to do. So let's start this at, say, 120. Depending how many pieces you're going to use, doing this in 120 seconds, which is 2 minutes, would be probably not doable. So this is just for demonstrative purposes. So the time needs to constantly be counting down. So that means in the update section, we'll do time bonus minus equals time dot delta time. If you haven't seen this before, if you remember from math class, delta means change in, so this is the change in time. So this is just saying how much time has passed since the last time this line has run. This line runs every frame, once per frame. So that's how much time is passing. How much time has passed since the last time the frame has run. So time bonus is decreased by the change in time. Now when all the pieces are placed, then the remaining time bonus will be added in. So let's go ahead and make that static now that I think about it. And what we'll do is we're going to have a separate script for controlling the score. More than likely, you'd probably have a GM object if this was a full-blown game. So, game object, create empty, and we'll call this score text. Add component, mesh, text mesh. I'm going to put the word score in here, although technically we don't have to. I'm just going to do this for placement and size and location on the screens so I can align it correctly. So character size, have to shrink it so it's not blurry. Font size, let's make this like 22. Let's make this like 28. Now, depending on the layout of your screen is going to depend where you want this. In fact, you may find that you don't even want it on the screen until the puzzle is over, and then maybe you'll have a separate score screen. That would take a little bit more time, and if you want to see that, just let me know. We can do a separate summary screen, but for now, we'll just put the score up here. So right-click, create C#, and we'll call this score control. Okay. So we'll click on score text. We'll drag and drop score control on it. Oops, I forgot to choose a font, but in Unity 5 it seems to use a default font even if you don't select one, so Arial. So sorry about that. Okay, so let's open up score control. And in the update section, because we want the score to constantly update, we're going to do get component. Which component? Well, we want to change the text mesh. Okay, what attribute the text mesh do we want to change? We want to change the text, because you could be changing the font, you could be changing the color. And this will be equal to the string constant score. This is why I was saying that I really didn't need to manually enter it, because you can change it here anyways. Plus and we said it's going to be a combination of since it's a static variable, we need to call the script that the static variable is defined in, so it's in move piece dot total score, but this is also going to be calculated. It's going to be added. See, and this is one of the odd things about Unity, or at least C#. This plus sign actually means concatenate, because you're not adding this, you're appending it. It's going to be, it's not being manipulated. And yet here you're using a plus sign to be addition, so it is a little odd. And we said this is going to be move piece dot and it is time bonus, but that's a float, so we have to turn this into an int. Let me just do dot to, nope. Oh, let's turn the whole thing into a string, maybe it'll be okay. Let's see how it handles that. Well, it didn't dislike it. Okay, so it is working. Obviously, we want to get rid of the decimals. And what we want to also do is we want to... That's actually way too fast. So even though it's saying seconds, that's counting more than one number per second. Not sure why. I'll have to take a look at that, but that was definitely decreasing more than 1 per second. Anyways, so let's see if we can round this. Okay, let's try math f dot round to int. Now it's still going to count down, but that should get rid of the decimals. Good. Yeah, I'm still a little bit perplexed why it's decreasing faster than 1 per second. Now, if we weren't doing the rounding, it would make sense because it's rounding it down. But it was doing that even before we rounded. So, not a big deal. I'll take a look later to see if I can figure out exactly why it's counting faster. But that basically gives us what we wanted. So let's just run the whole thing now. So we place that. Place that. Place that. Place that. I'm not sure if I have... Yeah, I do have that one there. Okay. So, a few things as far as placement. Let's slide this up. Also, it's not on the top of everything else. So since we already have a script modifying it, in the start section you can do get component renderer sorting order, and we'll just like say 15, because I believe when a puzzle piece is moving around it's 10. So that about does it. That gives you the score. Not sure if you really want the score to be counting down right along. Usually the bonus tends to appear at the end of a round rather than distracting the player. And the other thing is we don't want this to ever be less than 0. Unless you do want to penalize them, but usually game, depends how unforgiving you want to be. But with a more casual game like this, probably don't want to penalize them. So what we'll do is if movePiece.timeBonus is less than 0, then it doesn't like that, less than equal to. So we set a floor that it can't go below 0, but for some reason I think it's the wrong if. Yep. So gotta be very careful. C# is absolutely case sensitive. So now this should not go below 0. Okay, there you go. So that should about do it. That shows you how to add a score based on both time, correct placements, and incorrect placements. So if there's anything else, just let me know.